Hey, this is Matt Urtz, the Madison County historian. We are still working to document the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and how it's impacted our Madison County people, places, and things, businesses, and organizations. Today, we are talking with two people from the Madison County Community Partnership, their executive director, Antara Mitra, and their intensive mentor, Cory Marsh. Thank you for both being here today. Talk a little bit about, for those that are not familiar, what is Madison County Community Action Partnership?
Well, thank you for inviting us to record this for posterity, Matt. And Community Action is as it says right there in the name, we're a community-based human services organization. We have been around since 1986 as an agency, and we work currently not only in Madison County, but also serving families in Herkimer, Oneida, and soon Shenango County as well. And while we have a great variety of different programs ranging from housing to nutrition to working with children, at the core, we are here to help families that are vulnerable, families that have some kind of crisis going on, they have some kind of a need going on, especially the low-income families, the low-income community, but not exclusively. Not all our programs are only for those who are low income, but it's definitely for people who have some kind of a crisis, some kind of a need going on. So, Cory here is with the mentoring program, and maybe she can talk a little bit about what her program does.
Sure. In the mentoring program, then we have actually a wait list, and we have kids off the wait list that we mentor, and their ages are 9 to 15 or 16. And what we do with them is we, before COVID, we would pick them up and take them out in the community and spend time with them and, build the trusting relationship with them and work with them to, on their, support for them that they need. And I've been mentoring 6 years and have had many mentees in my life. And so we just work with these children, and they're just need that extra person in their life that, to make a difference.
How do these kids get recommended to you? Is there a process, or can you just sign up?
No, there is a process. They are referred to us through Department of Social Services, and then they, they go on the wait list, and then once they are off the wait list and ready for a mentor, then we do intakes with families and get them going. We also have a volunteer program, and that is different than our intensive program. And we also have a wait list, and we can receive referrals for our volunteer program through pretty much like support workers like Liberty or schools and like that. So, and they are the same thing. They go on our wait list until we get a volunteer mentor.
Have you,
Matt, if I can also just mention one thing. We are the largest provider of housing services in the county. We have a permanent supportive housing program where families can stay for an extended period of time. We have transitional housing that families can stay for a shorter period of time. And then we offer rental assistance in the community as well. So that's become a big identity of our agency over the years.
Okay, so talk about during the COVID pandemic, have you guys seen some programs see an uptick and other programs not so much? Have you found that there's new needs that you guys maybe weren't aware of that are now coming in? I know we talked to social services, and they kind of talked about some of that stuff, that stuff like SNAP and actually homelessness had gone up, but other things had not put on the back burner by any stretch of the word, but priorities get changed a little during something like this.
I think somebody once told me, for the most part, what we are seeing in COVID is, the existing problems kind of get exacerbated, so magnified. We've always had homeless or families being at risk of homelessness in the community. We are seeing that magnified. the insecurity of food, that is magnified. The trauma and crisis that our families deal with on a daily basis, uh, that again is magnified. So while on an individual level, yes, some programs, just because of the way we operate, that there's an intake process and things like that. For a home visiting program like Early Head Start that works with young children, helping them in developing skills to be successful in school. We've not had new families enter that program just because a school has been at a standstill nearly, and it's not possible. It was not possible for us to do an in-person intake. But other programs like housing, we've had to change the way we've responded, but that has been going gangbusters, for the lack of a better word. So some things, and again, some of the additional assistance that families might have gotten through extra unemployment, etc., the deferment of the rent, um, you know, we've seen a little bit of a temporary lull in some of those things. Car repairs, for example, we help families with car repairs if they're eligible. Well, a lot of those families, might not have had a need to use the car, or the garage was closed or whatever. So we're seeing a little bit of a lull in some things, but overall, it is, we never stop serving people. We were not able to allow the public into the office, but we were still available via phone and Facebook and our website and all the outreach that people like Cory have continued doing with their families.
Okay, so talk a little bit about the shutdown starts on the 16th. We go to half capacity. The 20th, pretty much everything closes. Talk about that moment of having to adapt on the fly, because again, when you think about what you guys do, Cory, were you allowed to go see people? Because it seems like you have now an uptick in stress. You have kids that are home that might be struggling with these adaptations, digital learning, maybe being babysitters sometimes, stuff like that. And now we have all these new guidelines that we have to follow.
Yeah, it was a huge change for my mentees that are in the program and the families. If you can just imagine a teenager all of a sudden is told that she has to do her schoolwork from home, she can't see her friends, and she can't have a visit with her mentor. It's very causes a lot of anxiety with the kids. So I from that start point, I was not allowed to see them. I did reach out to them through phone calls quite often, weekly, and I instantly started sending them mail. I had like a theme thing with them. Like I sent them like believe in yourself activity sheets, just things that can keep them busy and keep their mind busy and know that I'm still here and mentoring them in a different way.
Were you able to utilize digital things like Zoom or Skype or anything like that? Or
as we led into April, I am still able to video chat with them. That's been nice because for them to see my face and I see their face and their smiles means a lot too. Kids nowadays don't like talking on the phone because they're not used to that. So it's been challenging, but we've been getting through it and letting them know that we're still here.
Okay. And Tara, are there other programs that, again, on the fly, we got to figure out how to go from being in an office to being at home? And again, you referenced the housing. Administering that program probably in a new way.
Absolutely. We had to rethink all processes for every single program, every single kind of activity task that we did, whether it was from the program point of view, like, how do you actually go meet with the family or keep providing support to that family, to, okay, how do we run paychecks? Do we get people to submit their timesheets now that we're all working remotely from home? How do we make sure everybody has a device, and what level of device do different people need? How do we keep paying the rent for facilities that we rent? What do we do with the cleaners? So, small things like, oh, I think we should stop cleaning services now that nobody's in the office, but what can we do to try to, instead of a weekly cleaning, maybe this is a good time for them to clean carpets, so we still kind of keep some business and money going their way while not wasting government resources because we're 100% grant funded. How do we make sure we keep getting our reimbursement from the different grants? So it was an extremely challenging situation, not just from the point of view of, okay, how do we keep our staff safe and continue providing services, which was, my number one priority. How do we keep everybody safe? And how do we kind of continue without having a big break in services? To also, how do we satisfy all those different audit and government requirements that will enable us to keep getting paid so we can keep doing what we do. So for somebody, a program like housing, when they provide rental support and try to get somebody into an apartment, there has to be a visual check of the apartment to make sure it's meeting all HUD standards of health and safety. So obviously we couldn't do that in person, so we were able to get a waiver to do that via video. So the landlord or the prospective tenant would send us a video of the apartment, and on the basis of that, we would then approve the rental and the payments. We figured somebody has to go in to pick up the mail every day or every other day or whatever the schedule is. Fiscal staff have to go in to run checks once a week. Otherwise, how are we going to get that rental assistance payment out to the landlord? So little things like that, and also big things like, how do we keep everybody safe? Which I think that was the number one challenge. It was such a fast moving environment and nobody knew what was going to happen the very next hour, let alone the next day. So a couple of things we did at the agency to try to keep everybody on the same page and to make quick decisions is that the management team, we started meeting every day in the morning for an hour, every single day. It was a Zoom or a MS Teams meeting. And, that's when we would kind of say, okay, fine, the executive order just came out yesterday. We need to change X, Y, Z. So we're going to do this, so on and so forth. And we set in motion an operations committee, which would look at some of that day-to-day and then kind of the reopening strategy that, okay, is it safe to go back? How do we make it safer to go back? How do we make it safer to start visiting clients again? Though I would say we never really stopped visiting clients. It would be modified. It would be a porch drop-off. It would be a Zoom meeting with a client, but we try to keep in touch with everybody.
So talk about, now that we're however far into this we are, I think we're 5 months in. Talk a little bit about how this has impacted you in terms of changing, because especially in the future, because you've already talked about some of the adaptations you've made, but we're not going to go back to the way it was. I just don't think that's plausible. So do you guys see certain programs becoming more prominent in the future because of this? Do you see, in a great example, talking about how we change, Cory, I'm guessing a lot of your kids now know how to wash their hands correctly.
Yeah.
Because we've all been trained in that.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, do you see your interactions changing with the kids? Is it possible that face-to-face interactions might change in the future in general because of something like this?
Oh, absolutely. I feel that they will change. We're not allowed to start visits yet. We're hoping that it will happen, but safety's first. Mask will have to be worn, and, hand sanitizing and like that. So that's the problem with mentoring, is they're in my car. And so that, they'd have to be in the back seat. But I do see I do see a future with them because, as long as we respect the, New York state laws and the safety with them, then they're still waiting, it doesn't matter to me. To them, I think what matters is that we can get visits going, and even if it's for an hour, instead of 2 hours. It has changed with our wait list because it's kind of on a freeze right now. So that is causing us not to move along with our wait list. So
we've talked to ministers and and a funeral home director, and they've talked about how traditional ways to help people grieve or console, you hug, you make some food and you take it to your neighbors that lost someone. All those things are kind of thrown out the window, and it's forcing them to find new ways to help comfort people and help keep that physical intimacy when you're not able to do it in all our traditional ways. I'm guessing it's kind of the same thing. That trust that's built up from being close is out the window. So you now have to kind of try new ways to do that.
mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And, we're a human service agency. If you take the human aspect out of it and replace it with digital interaction and communication, it's, on one hand, it's not the same thing, but we have seen some advantages of that. So access has become easier for some people, not everybody. The digital divide is wide and deep in Madison County, but for some people, it is easier for them to attend a Zoom meeting and with other parents, and they've forged a bond that they were not able to during pre-COVID times. It's also, I think, made everybody feel more vulnerable. So you're willing to put yourself out there a little bit more, perhaps. But it would be, I think, quite devastating if we couldn't go back to that human, interaction face to face. I mean, that is what human services has been built on. And it wouldn't just be us, it would be the entire industry, all of social work and, other kinds of early childhood education. So, we have 0 to 3-year-olds in some of our early childhood programs. How do you put a mask on them?
Right.
And how do you kind of keep them at arm's length when they just want to crawl into the home visitor's lap and go over the nursery rhyme book or whatever they are doing. So there are definitely some challenges from delivering the program point of view, but from a funding point of view, I mean, it is, we have our fingers crossed that the economy is going to pick up and the grants are going to get renewed, because some of these programs for some of the families are so critical. If we do not get the funds to run our transitional apartment housing program, where are those families going to go? We don't have any endowment or anything that we could dip into for a year or two to keep some of those programs going. So as an executive director, that is my primary concern. Will these grants get renewed? Will they get renewed in full? Will it be half? I'm sitting at the edge of my seat right now waiting for one housing RFP, which is a request for application, which is what the government comes out with, and then you have to apply for that grant. So we've had this now for 5 years. If it's not renewed, if the government decides we just don't have the money to do this, that's going to be a serious blow.
Mm-hmm. That's what a lot of people are afraid of right now. That even though we're surrounded by unknown at all times, it seems like it's hanging out with us a lot more in the last few months, and that scares a lot of people. Is there anything else either of you would like to say to the folks that you serve?
I would like to say that people we've seen a lot of kindness and generosity during this time as well. Mm-hmm. We've had people send us their stimulus checks to be able to, turn around and help others in the community. We've had, senior retirees contribute, what for them must be large chunks of money. We've had other organizations provide, mini grants, basically just donations to do some of the things that we've been able to do these past couple of months. We did some hygiene drives and diaper distribution drives and things like that. So we are seeing an incredible amount of, support and generosity, which kind of is what keeps us going, because, it is, we try to make life, provide as much support as we can to others, but in turn, we also need that support from the community. So that has felt really good, and I hope that continues the longer this stretches out.
Mm-hmm. That's true, though, too. I agree with you, Antara, because I mean, with the food pantries and the milk drives, and then the programs that they have for the families in at CAP, like the farm fresh vegetables, all of those programs are really appreciated, and I know that my families that I have, they appreciate it too. It's an uncertainty in an uncertain world, and it's like that for everybody, and especially the kids in the program, or kids all over, really. But I just keep in touch with them and let them know that I'm not going anywhere. So
yeah, it's funny. We actually talked to the folks from Morrisville's Dairy Drive, from Chittenango's Potato and something else drive. Oneida had a peanut butter and bread drive and milk.
mm-hmm.
So across the county, there was a cereal drive in Madison. We talked to some of the food pantry folks in Hamilton and Chittenango, Casanova, I think we have up on the docket soon. So it's amazing how communities have rallied. It does remind you that this is a wonderful place to live, and there is a reason why we all live in sometimes, as I joke, the part of New York that nobody knows exists. Everyone just thinks the city's there. So, but it's a wonderful place. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. Hopefully we don't have to talk again, because it finds a way to end soon. But if we do, I would love to talk to you again about other programs as stuff comes and goes and changes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this. It's going to be a great resource for generations ahead.
I hope so. I hope they don't have to look at it till I'm long gone.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.